Hey guys.
So we're back again with another off-season episode where we talk about some of our favorite movies, media releases, anything to that nature. So last time, we both recommended each other a movie or manga or whatever that we have been watching the past few years. This time, we'll be speaking to some of the releases that came out that we both like and discuss what it is that we like, why we would recommend it to our friends, family, colleagues, or whatever. And then, yeah, just go from there.
Sounds good. All right. So, one item that we do want to recommend is Cobra Kai, which is essentially, if you haven't watched The Karate Kid, Kishi, have you watched The Karate Kid?
Yeah, I watched everything except for the Will Smith's kid.
Oh, so did you watch the Hilary Swank
Jackie
one?
Chan? That's the second one, right?
The Hilary Swank one?
Isn't it?
No, that's the fourth one.
Oh.
They have like 1, 2, 3 with Daniel. So 1 is the original.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
2 is the Japan. Third one is he comes back and becomes evil, or Daniel becomes evil. Fourth one is the next Karate Kid, or the next generation. But I think it's the next Karate Kid with Hilary Swank. And then there's the fifth one, which is in the US it's called The Karate Kid, but everywhere else internationally it's called the Kung Fu Kid.
Is that because of Jackie Chan?
Jackie Chan's in it, but they're doing Kung Fu. They're not doing karate.
Yeah, I mean, Jackie Chan doesn't know karate.
I'm sure he has trained in minimally in it. He's done He's trained kickboxing. He holds a black belt in karate.
Oh shit! Really?
Black belt in karate, taekwondo.
Okay, I take that back.
Hapkido.
Aikido? Aikido?
Hapkido.
What is that?
It's like the Korean version of Aikido, I think.
Okay, let me stand corrected. I guess he knows everything.
I think when you get as big as him and do all of those different roles, you kind of just end up doing it. And he's a student of the martial arts, so I think anyways.
But I do stand corrected. I've only watched the first two.
Okay.
Maybe I watched this Hilary Swank one, but it was such a long time ago, I don't remember. I only remember, plot-wise, I only remember the first two.
I don't think the third one's a must-watch, no matter how big of a fan you are. Granted, I watched so right now Cobra Kai has 3 seasons, and they're coming out with the 4th season.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, it's releasing soon, actually. They just came out with the trailer recently.
Why?
You didn't like the first 3?
I loved it. Well, love is a strong word. I really liked it. But I didn't feel the need to have a 4th season.
Well, I mean, it didn't end neatly, right? I feel like whenever they don't end tied up. Plus, I mean, we're talking about media. Like One Piece has been going on for however knows long. There's a whole bunch of like series that should probably have ended short in a very a lot more condensed, like How I Met Your Mother, right? That probably should have ended a lot earlier than it did.
True.
Anyways, yeah, the first 3 seasons were successful. I don't think there is a reason not to have a 4th season, especially how the 3rd season ended.
Okay. It seems like we do have different takes on this franchise.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear your take on this franchise now. But I think the first season's good, second season's good, third season's good. The 3rd season, if you watch the 3rd season, you definitely need to watch the second movie.
Really?
Did you watch the 3rd season?
Yeah, I did. To be honest, I don't really remember too much about the second movie either.
The second movie's the one in Japan.
Where he goes to Okinawa.
Yeah. So all of the callbacks, all of the references he makes are in reference to him in his own experience in that second movie.
See, I was not picking up on all those references watching season 3, but I still enjoyed it.
Yes. So definitely worth a watch. 2 thumbs up for both of us.
I mean, I do feel like there's a lot of nostalgia. Here's the thing. So I would recommend people watching it but only to those who watched Karate Kid before. There's a lot of nostalgia and very good pacing. There's not a lot of like unnecessary moments. I feel like I did feel like a lot of the scenes in that in the whole or in all three seasons, it kind of built on what's happening before to kind of get the audience to the final moment in the not final moment, but last episode in each season. And that's why I really liked it. Honestly, I binge watched every single season, and so yeah, that's what I mean by really good pacing. But I don't know if you had not watched the Karate Kid, the first one, I don't know if it's worth checking out.
Yeah, so I do agree with you there. I think you definitely need to watch the first Karate Kid to appreciate the series, because I think a lot of it is the unresolved dynamic from that first movie and how that affects the main protagonist or anti-hero's journey kind of throughout the first 3 seasons.
Right.
So one, you mentioned the pacing is good, right? That's definitely a positive. I think it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's very lighthearted. It's very eager to throw jabs at the original movie as well as kind of itself at the same time.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really like a really good trait of it, because I think that's something that I think a lot of shows are doing now, but it's always still appreciated.
Yeah, I sometimes do not like that Hollywood, or I don't know if it's technically Hollywood, but kind of plays on our nostalgic feeling towards certain things and kind of recreates like the extended universe where the plot takes place like 20-30 years from the original. Like Boruto, I mean, I wasn't a Naruto fan at all, but I mean, Boruto seems like just a moneymaker to me. I don't know. But with the Cobra Kai series, like you mentioned, I think they did a very good job touching on those nostalgic feelings, but it was very original in plot, but it's like a modern take of that journey that Daniel-san originally went through. So yeah, I think that's why I thought it was really good.
Well, I think one thing also that I liked about it is I think it is a very, you mentioned kind of Daniel-san, who was the protagonist of the first Karate Kid movies, right? But Cobra Kai is very much kind of the anti-hero story of the main antagonist or I don't know if it's the main antagonist or the supporting antagonist, depending on how you classify it, in the original Cobra Kai or the original Karate Kid series. So I thought that was a really interesting angle, because I mean, at the end of the day, we're all people. We all have our reasons for doing whatever. The Cobra Kai series does dive a little bit into that. Not as much as it, or probably a good amount. Like, it doesn't do that too much, but I feel, but it does it an appropriate amount. And it shows that we're all kind of able to change for the better, minus whatever kind of history or baggage that we do have.
Yeah, it's a very modern take in the sense that in the past, I think everything, or at least for us growing up, a lot of these superhero or the movies that we watched, everything was really black and white.
Yes.
I think a famous reference we can make is probably Black Panther.
Yes.
People who enjoyed that movie enjoyed
Killmonger?
Yeah, the Killmonger story. I think a lot of people related to his story too. So yeah, I mean, it's something that we're kind of seeing with a lot of our media, where not everything's really black and white, echoing what you just said. Sorry, but I think that, I think they do a very good job kind of portraying that in the series.
One thing you might not enjoy it for is if you don't like watching kids beat up each other, because there is a lot of that, especially in the 3rd season.
I don't know. I'm really numb to violence, so I don't understand that feeling, but sure.
So yeah, just a warning: if you don't like watching that too much, you might be uncomfortable watching this series. But I definitely recommend from both of us.
So the next one we are going to talk about is Tenet, a movie that came out in 2020. amidst the pandemic. So I think a lot of people watched it at home.
Yes.
There's not too many people that watched it in the theaters, which I actually did want to do, because I feel like with any Christopher Nolan movie, you kind of had to watch it on IMAX. But that's just a personal preference.
I mean, he was very adamant that it needed to release when the theaters were open so that you could watch it at least on the big screen, if not IMAX. I think he films the movies definitely for an IMAX audience.
Definitely. So I was kind of bummed about that, but
yeah. So a little bit about this. It is a bit of a confusing movie. I personally I personally had a difficult time keeping track of what was going on.
Like any Christopher Nolan movie?
I don't know. I felt like Inception was easy enough to follow, and Interstellar was easy enough to follow. I mean, obviously the Dark Knight trilogy was easy enough to follow.
It's easy to follow, but doesn't always make a lot of sense.
So have you seen Memento? Because I personally haven't seen Memento, but I feel like the way I've heard Memento, the way that movie skips around in time throughout the movie, I feel like that's trying to keep up.
Major spoiler there.
Oh, okay, sorry.
How do you know that if you haven't watched it?
Because I've watched a lot of videos that talk about Christopher Nolan's weird obsession with how to tell a movie timeline, or how to make a movie timeline, and they reference Memento all the time.
But yeah, I did watch Memento as part of my film class in university.
You took a film class?
No, I had to take a extracurricular class.
Yeah, media, like an arts one.
Yeah, I took a few art classes just because I enjoy it. And yeah, film was one of them. And yeah, that's why I was kind of forced to watch it, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah, that's on my to watch list. So maybe if you can add that to recommended later on. But yeah, I definitely want to watch it. But going back to Tenet was definitely something that was a little bit difficult understanding kind of what was going on, especially before the big reveal in the middle of the movie, or at the climax of the movie. But like, if you're okay being confused in a movie, I think Tenet's probably one of the right movies for you. I know I definitely need to watch it again. I know a lot of people I know have watched it multiple times to really understand the movie. But if you are very plot and character driven, you will most likely hate this movie.
True.
Or despise this movie, because the movie itself is more or less, at least from my point of view, it's more or less kind of like a high budget video essay on what would happen if this type of technology was created. So, not without getting too much into the plot of it, the characters and the plot of the movie are more or less sacrificed from any kind of development in order to portray what this concept technology how somebody would use this concept and technology, because it is Christopher Nolan in the movie, I feel, really needs to make sure that the viewer of the movie, the audience, understands what the power of it is.
Yeah, I like that take. I think you probably explained it a lot better than I could have. So,
without getting into too much information. It is definitely a puzzler of a movie, though, and I think like I latched onto the whole concept, and that's what I think I enjoyed about it. I don't know what your biggest, or why you latched onto the movie, or why you enjoyed it.
Maybe other than the Batman series, I've never really watched Christopher Nolan movies for, like you said, the plot or the character development. For me, it's always been the visual presentation of a concept, like you mentioned. That's what really makes me want to watch a Christopher Nolan movie. Like
Did you-
Inception.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe plot.
Spoiler alert on
No.
that.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. If you haven't watched it, maybe skip a minute or two in the podcast. But like in Inception, the concept is really cool. Going into somebody's dream, implanting something, or stealing something, and then the way he portrayed that through layers, that was very cool to me.
It is interesting though. I think kind of the implanting doesn't, or like how that grows. So continuing on the spoiler alert, the idea, so they more or less kind of heist. It's a heist movie. Inception specifically is a heist movie that figures out a way to implant an idea. But I think an interesting kind of sequel to that movie would probably be maybe a visualization on how that seed that's planted propagates into a real person's thought, because I don't know if that was, I mean, he's probably not going to ever do that. I don't know if anyone would, but I feel like that would be kind of an interesting thought experiment to kind of see how that propagates, because it's like one thing to like, oh, okay, this technology, we can incept a thought into a guy by going down this many layers in a person's dream, but it never goes into why they think that's the case.
So here's my thing, and maybe I'll get some hate for saying this, but with certain directors, or some of the media that certain directors create, I have different expectations that I have from them. So I don't always ask for logical storytelling or connecting some of the dots that's always foreshadowed throughout the story. One example would be some of the Satoshi Kon's films.
What are some examples of those?
I think the most famous one, I think, is Paprika. If you haven't watched it,
okay.
I mean, the plot. I mean, I don't know. It plays with the concept of the dream state, and it mixes it very beautifully with the real world, to the point where sometimes you don't know which side you're on. And logically, I mean, to be honest, it doesn't really make sense. But visually, there's something in there that kind of really grabs my attention and sucks me into the world. Like, and when I watched that a few times too, but every time I watch it, like, I'm really focused into that world. And I can't say the same with every single Christopher Nolan movie, but there's certain scenes in his instant film I feel like visually is outstanding. It's original, it's outstanding. I mean, not that I'm a film snob or anything, or I watch a lot of movies, but I don't feel like anybody else is able to recreate that sequence the way Christopher Nolan does in his movies. So with Tenet, I mean, when I going into it, I didn't really have too much expectations in terms of being really satisfied with the story. I kind of just went into it thinking, okay, what's going to be that moment where what's going to be that scene where everyone's going to be talking about? For example, Inception, again, spoiler alert, there's a scene where Joseph Gordon-Levitt is fighting inside a hotel, and the hallway is rotating as he fights this agent.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was a cool scene.
That was a cool scene. That was a very memorable scene, right? That everybody, I think, talked about after the movie came out.
That also screwed up, I think, the X-Men Days of Future Past. I think, yeah. So that was their like penultimate. I think that was their original penultimate scene for X-Men Days of Future Past. Either that or X-Men.
Stolen?
No, so they were planning on having this type of scene in their movie, and then they saw Inception and they're like, oh shoot, this is exactly what we wanted, and like they rewrote the end of it, I think.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because of that, I mean, there's certain things I expect out of certain movies directed by a certain person.
Mhm.
Yeah. So for that reason, I thoroughly enjoyed Tenet for the movie that it is.
Mhm.
So yeah, like you mentioned, if you're the type of person that wants some logic into their plot, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you're the type of person that really likes sci-fi and the visual
Mhm.
presentation of certain scenes,
Mhm.
I would definitely recommend taking the time to watch this movie.
Okay, so I have a question for you, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, but I don't think it's too much of a spoiler alert. There is a
Mhm.
fight scene in Tenet. I think that was supposed to be very visually kind of or very conceptually cool, but I think the execution of it was a little bit funny. Did you enjoy
I think
that?
I know which scene you're talking about. That part I didn't really enjoy.
I think a lot of people criticized that.
It's kind of hard to talk about it without really.
Well,
Well,
I mean, the
can talk about
fight
it
scene,
without
right? The whole idea
really.
is it's like
Yeah.
the main fight scene, I want to say. That I think is supposed to be kind of that same. I think that was supposed to give you the same visual impact as the Inception hotel fight scene.
Really?
I think it was, because in concept, right? It's like a person fighting forward in time versus a person fighting backwards in time.
I feel like the car chase scenes was that scene.
I think that was
No?
that scene, but executed so much better.
Oh yeah, the car chase was that was pretty amazing.
Yeah. But I think they tried to do that same kind of they tried to have that same kind of effect with the earlier fight scene. But I think that was kind of I think it just turned out being really bad.
I wouldn't say it was a shit show, but not as I don't know, not as great as the Inception scene.
Somebody in I think the Honest Trailer commentaries was mentioning how that scene looked like the practice choreography session from the film instead of the actual scene.
Is the protagonist supposed to be a trained fighter?
Yeah, he's CIA secret agent.
I was gonna try to justify it by saying he's an amateur fighting an amateur. But,
No.
I guess not.
No, it's really
a budget issue.
I don't think it was a budget issue. I think it's a very difficult concept to portray. And I don't know if it actually makes any sense, like a person fighting forward in time versus the person fighting backwards in time.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it has to look good both ways, right? That's kind of hard to choreograph, I feel like.
Well, can you imagine fighting, like watching all your punches drawn backwards and blocking which ones that you think are coming?
Yeah.
So I think that one was interesting. I think I don't know if it was done very well. I mean, it wasn't done very well. So
not my favorite scene.
Oh, but you should watch the Honest Trailer for it. I recommend watching that on YouTube, because they have they cap off their mock trailer of it with a really funny thought experiment.
Okay.
That kind of goes along with Tenet.
All right, maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah. Anyways, on to our next one. I think we gave it a recommend if you like really conceptual movies. Don't expect another Inception. I think if you didn't like Interstellar, you might also be disappointed with this, because it is more towards like explaining a concept than it is about any type of plot or character arc. But if you don't really, or if you can kind of move away from the plot and character arc, and as Keishi mentioned, be there for the visuals, I I think hopefully we think you'll enjoy it. So the next movie we're going to recommend is The Suicide Squad, not to be mixed with Suicide Squad, a really terrible movie in I think a lot of people's minds. Make sure there's the word "the" in the title. Very important that you remember that.
The one that came out in 2021, not 2016.
Yes, where the protagonist is Idris Elba, not Will Smith. They both have Margot Robbie in it, but the big thing is Idris versus Will. So, did you watch the original Suicide Squad?
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious on your thoughts on whether or not you you recommend the Suicide Squad more because you remember how terrible that movie, the original, was.
I don't know. For both Suicide Squad and the Suicide Squad, I take both movies as face value.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a feel-good action movie, so I don't think I was as disappointed with Suicide Squad that came out in 2016 as some of others may have. Although I did feel like the acting with the Joker was pretty bad.
Oh yeah, Jared Leto's Joker.
Yeah, I mean sometimes his acting works. Like I feel like his acting from Blade Runner 2049 was pretty good.
He didn't really have that many lines in that movie, I feel though.
That's why.
So he's good where he doesn't have to speak.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. So it's kind of going off of that. So with the Suicide Squad, I wasn't really going in. My expectations were pretty low, to be honest with you.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm wondering.
I made sure not to look at any Rotten Tomato or any of those reviews. Because I wanted to go in at a blank state. And I came out of the movie really enjoying it.
Yeah.
I like later action. Although, as a person that hates small animals and rats,
I see where you're going with this.
That was very traumatic. But I don't know. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So the reason Keishi mentions that is there are, I don't know if Weasel also kind of creeped you out.
Yeah. I mean, you can bleep me out, but fuck, that was disgusting.
Yeah. So there's a couple of characters in the Suicide Squad that are rodent-like or rodent involving. So one of the main characters, protagonist, is a girl called Ratcatcher, or sorry, more specifically Ratcatcher 2. And the plot more or less kind of follows the new Suicide Squad and their kind of adventure, trying to more or less complete this mission that they've been sent on, the suicide mission that they've been sent on.
So very briefly touching on the premise here, it's like the
so it's set in the
Avengers, right?
Yeah, well, it's set in the DC universe, right? So,
yeah, sorry. So not Avengers, Justice League.
Yes.
My apologies for that. Please don't. I know what difference is. Okay. So it's like the anti-hero version of the Justice League. So I mean, there's like these bad guys. I guess I'm assuming they were captured.
Yes.
So
in the original movie, or the first movie, they show how they were each captured by each of the Justice League members.
That's right.
Yeah.
I guess they're called the Task Force X teams. Essentially, they're hired by this team to save the world.
They're like a black ops team that if pretty much they go on missions that are too dirty for the Justice League. So that if anything does go wrong, no one really cares if they die. They just more or less die. So these are missions that Superman can do if he really wanted to, but he probably wouldn't want to. All for America. So anyways, Yeah, so it follows the new Suicide Squad. You don't see how they're all captured. It starts off more or less with them in prison and kind of like their recruitment. It does have a really strong cast of characters. Sylvester Stallone's in it. John Cena, Idris Elba, Margot Robbie. And they have a really... And there's a few others I don't remember the name of. Taika Waititi makes a cameo in it as well.
Wait, Sylvester Stallone is in it?
Spoiler alert, he's the shark.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't know. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought I heard that voice before. What the heck? All right, sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
No worries. So yeah, really, like, it's a ragtag group of people. I think they have really good chemistry in the movie. If you have a really strong distaste for gore, I think you're probably not gonna like it. The way they portray it though is more Django or like Quentin Tarantino-esque versus like Saw, the way that the gore is portrayed in the movie. So it desensitizes it a bit, but it kind of makes it a little bit more funny and comedic. Yeah, it's a funny movie, definitely rated R. Do not bring any kids to it. It is a really fun movie. The characters, like you said, well written. It is very well paced, and the antagonist is kind of, or the real antagonists in the movie are kind of, I feel like the way they treat good and bad, especially from the point of view of the Suicide Squad, is a very interesting take. Granted, it's been played out in previous movies, but I still thought it was an interesting way they went about it. There's a lot of comedic moments in there. I was laughing quite frequently throughout the viewing.
It's directed by James Gunn, who also did Guardians of the Galaxy, right? So
yes,
it is dark, but similar sense of humor, I'd say.
Yeah, very more kind of the more adult, un-Disneyfied version.
Yeah.
What did you like the most about it? Or what were some of the things that you enjoyed watching it?
The fighting.
Any specific ones that stand out?
I know what I hated.
What did you hate?
Spoiler alert, the ending when they attacked the starfish.
Aww.
With rats.
Okay, fair enough.
Like, I was fucking okay. I was freaking what's his name character? I was freaking Bloodsport when he was like on his knees, guarding all the rats. All these rats were like crawling all over him. I felt that. I would probably be in the same position as he was. The same thing happened to me, and probably would have pissed my pants for sure.
Yeah, that was very graphic, and I'd probably be in the same place you be. It's really gross. But I think for me, my favorite scene was actually the one where Bloodsport and God, who's John Cena's character?
Peacemaker.
Yeah, Peacemaker.
Nope. Is it Peacemaker?
Yeah, it's Peacemaker. Bloodsport and Peacemaker kind of go through the camp.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was a very good scene.
That was probably my favorite scene.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of good movements in the movie. Definitely not one that's ever going to really, I feel like, make you think a lot, similar to, or kind of as opposed to our previous our previous recommendation, which was Tenet, or even before that, Cobra Kai. Well, Cobra Kai won't make you think very much, but Tenet will definitely make you think a lot.
Yeah, you're kind of forced to think because you don't know what's going on.
Yeah. But yeah, kind of more along the lines of Cobra Kai in terms of just pure enjoyment, kind of just going along for the ride.
I would probably go far as calling it a feel-good movie, but that's just me.
It's a feel-good movie. It's kind of sad at some points.
Right. So that was the
first half of our recommendations, right?
Yeah. And before we go into the final one, which is I think what we're both the most passionate about, we're gonna go on a usual break and come back.
We'll see you soon.
Right, and we're back.
We're back.
And we are
Pumped.
Excited, emotional, everything.
Yes.
That's
very much so.
Let's get this started.
Let's do it. Did we want to consider this a movie, or did we want to just consider this the whole thing? Because you can't take it in isolation.
You're talking, I don't know why you're being so vague, but if you're talking about what I think I'm talking about, I think you're talking about Evangelion.
Yeah, in our notes we have specifically 3.0 plus 1.0.
3.0 plus 1.01. That's the one that came out on Amazon.
Thrice upon a time. That's what we'll call it. Because I think that's consistent between all of the releases. But yeah, I don't know. So what are your thoughts on whether or not we could just kind of go into this particular movie versus someone that has versus recommending somebody watch the entire series? Because I think for you and I, right, we talked about this previously, how the movie itself, it's definitely something that's capped off kind of like this whole like decades long wait. At least for me, right? I remember you mentioning something kind of similar, maybe not the same timeline.
I would agree that it was a good way to end the Evangelion series.
The
Evangelion. We're not calling a series.
Is it like saga now? What is the appropriate franchise? The canon. Well, I don't know if this is canon, right? Technically. So
I don't know what canon is, or I mean, I don't know how canon is defined. So,
well, from everything that's made by Hideaki Anno, right?
Yeah.
So everything, yeah. That's I
don't know why you're, being so careful about how you call it. No one's gonna cancel us for that, I don't think.
I'm just being particular. This is part of who I am. Being particular in unnecessary ways.
Right. So what are you gonna call it?
Franchise.
Yeah. Right. That's a hard one, but for the sake of, I mean, either way, we're gonna have to touch upon prior releases.
Yes.
At least the rebuild.
Yes.
Before movies that came out.
Yes.
So we can, instead of saying the last one, Thrice Upon a Time, we can just say talk about the rebuild series. Is that better?
We could talk. I'm curious. Well, I don't know. So like for the listeners, there's a little bit of a spoiler alert coming. The first rebuild movie 1.0 was very much kind of like a rehash of the first few episodes of the original Evangelion series. They did some definitely upgraded the graphics, not in a bad way like they did with Godzilla on Netflix, if you've seen that, or a lot of the newer manga, kind of very CGI mangas that they've done, or CGI heavy anime that they've done. But I think they've done a pretty clean job. There's also small little changes that they've made that I personally probably didn't pick up on, other than the fact that they shortened it. But yeah, the first rebuild movie, which was a 4-part series, was kind of like a rehash of the first few episodes.
Yeah, so if we're gonna talk about Evangelion, I know I said in the beginning that we're gonna recommend things. When it comes to Evangelion, I don't think we can recommend it. It's hard to recommend it without spoiling it. So
wait, what do you mean by that?
It's kind of hard to talk about this movie or the rebuild series without, well, for me personally, I would not recommend the rebuild series to anyone who's new to the series. I would tell them to first watch the TV series first. Actually, I would tell them to watch everything.
Yes, I agree with that. So we'll kind of skip it for everyone else listening. Don't worry about, or if you do decide to watch this movie, Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.01, Thrice Upon a Time on Amazon Prime. Watch the whole series first, the original series, including the two. Well, do you think they need to watch the first movie, which I think is Death and Rebirth?
Yeah. If you're gonna watch everything, just watch. I mean, if you're gonna watch the franchise, just watch the whole thing. Spend how many hours? I don't know.
Well, it's
Like,
26
the whole day?
episodes, right? 26 episodes plus
20 minutes each.
yeah, about 20 something minutes each, so about half an hour each, right? So 13 hours plus 2 feature-length movies, which are about 2 hours each, so we're at 17 hours. And then watch all of the Rebuild movies on Amazon Prime, so we're talking about another 2.5 hours each. So 24 hours.
Yeah, whole
Did I
day.
calculate that right? Yeah, one whole day. So
We-
12 to 12. Just start watching Evangelion. You'll be done. I don't think you'll have to watch the last episode for sure all over again. I don't know about if you had to do this. The third movie, I definitely need to rewind a couple times in there, because I feel like there was a lot of stuff that they snuck in there that I didn't get. Whereas I felt like 3.0 or 2. What's the third movie?
3.33.
3.33. Yeah.
Cute.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just watch everything in Japanese. I just go by the Japanese names. I don't know what the English translations are. Sorry. Not to be snobbish or anything.
Yeah, but didn't they? I felt like there were, especially there was a scene with Kaoru and Shinji in the third movie where Kaoru kind of gives Shinji an update about what's going on in the world. I don't think that's too much of an update, too much of a spoiler. But for me personally, I definitely need to watch that a couple of times to make sure I knew what the heck was going on, because I was like absorbing that information at the same time Shinji was. So Shinji, for everyone who doesn't know, is the main protagonist of the series. And he's a very insecure person who's, how would you describe Shinji?
I don't know. I thought he was a very average teenager, in a sense that he didn't know who he was. He was struggling with just trying to figure out who he was and how he was supposed to, I guess, contribute to the world, which I think is what a lot of teenagers go through, you know? Like in the Western sense, like Spider-Man struggles with very similar things. And the recent Marvel movies, I think, are doing a very good job, or not even just the Marvel series, but even the Sony series that came out in like 2000s. And I think they focused on kind of capturing that teenager angst, worries, and things like that. Yeah. But Shinji's life has been particularly kind of effed up, so sometimes hard to watch.
Yeah, he has a very he doesn't have a great relationship with his dad, which I think is not an uncommon anime trope, but it's definitely something that gives him a lot of pain and uncertainty throughout, and just like it adds to his whole view on the world. But he's also surrounded by quite a interesting cast of characters. So the main character obviously is Shinji, but you also have a couple more characters in the original series. Rei, you have Misato, you have Asuka cast, and then Kaoru, who we've mentioned a couple of times. Kaoru doesn't have as big of a part, but he definitely plays an important role in all of the media that's within this franchise. But each of them have their own problems, and how they relate to Shinji is, I feel like, how a lot of people relate to watching Shinji on screen, which I think is really interesting. It's really interesting how the director does that. So okay, we've gone about kind of like talking about Shinji and all the characters. I'm not too sure if you have any other reasons why the viewers should, or the listeners should, watch Evangelion, or this movie specifically.
You mean the rebuild, or?
Yeah, Thrice Upon a Time.
Well, I mean, if you're already watching the whole rebuild series, no one, if you don't have to tell the listeners to watch it, they probably watched it already, right?
That's true.
So if we're speaking to people who have not watched Evangelion at all, I would recommend watching the TV series at least before going to the movies. If you watch the movies, if you watch the TV series, didn't get it, and did not watch the rest of the movies that came out in between the TV series and the rebuild, I think that's fine. Essentially, it's another take. That's why it's called a rebuild on the whole series, right? So if you watched the TV series, didn't get it, and you've maybe hated Evangelion for that reason, I would advise you to, not advise you, but recommend you to try it out again with the rebuild series. I wouldn't say it makes more sense than before. There's some randomness in it, but that's just how the director Ano kind of works. He creates, so that kind of comes with everything that he works on. Based on what some of the feedback or the reviews I've seen online, it seems like the ending seems more satisfactory.
So I think for me, right, the original series, like I really liked a lot of it, but it was a constant state of, I was hoping, spoiler alert, I was hoping things would get better for the protagonist, which it never did. So if you can kind of look at, if you like graph out the state of like Shinji, just kind of him at the timeline and kind of his being, it goes up and down like a sinusoidal wave in the first few episodes, and then it goes a little bit up, and then it just keeps on going down, and it keeps on going down, and it never goes back up for him. And I think for me, that was like, where is that moment of relief, of catharsis at the end? And then in the original series, you're given that in this really crazy final episode, or final 2 episodes, I think, right? And so the first part is like really great, especially for, I was like watching this as a teen. It's very like relatable, like you mentioned, the angst of Shinji and all of the characters around him, along with kind of like how close it is to some other like high school shonen anime series that I think a lot of us watched initially, or like watched growing up in the anime community. It has all of those ingredients to make it a really good series, and then you feel so bad and you're waiting for something to get better, and then you're not given the ending that you want. Then I think I'm taking this from another review that I watched, like the movie, which is the end of Evangelion, that completely, I think it's such an interesting piece of work artfully, but that's not the ending that I wanted. So we finally get to the rebuild series, and thankful that this, like, really happy kind of how this, like, 8 out of 9 out of 10 ending finally happened for the character. Kind of brings him all the way back up to that steady state. Like, okay, everything's gonna be better than it was in the previous endings.
Yeah.
So at least for me, that's kind of like, if you didn't like the first few episodes of the season of the original Evangelion series, you're probably not gonna like the rest of the series or the rebuild or the movies.
So I guess according to you, the first 3 episodes of the TV series kind of makes it or breaks it.
So I don't know what your turning point in the series was. we'll get into a little bit of spoiler. But for me, the big turning point in the original series was when his friend gets into the Evangelion. Taoru. Something. I forgot his name.
No.
Toji, yeah. So when Toji gets into the Evangelion, so I feel like that was such a pivotal moment in the first series, because after that, pretty much it's just straight downhill until the end. Like, you have little glimpses of hope, but it never gets back to the place it was before that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So at that moment, if you don't like the series, I think probably go ahead and stop watching. Save yourself like 10, 12 hours, because you're not going to like the rest of the series. Not going to like the rest of the media.
If you're a very happy-go-lucky person that enjoys positivity, forget it. No, don't watch it. If you're cynical or dark like me, enjoy non-happy endings, this is for you.
So I like happy endings. So that's probably why I really like this last one so much. Because I love happy endings, and the first ones were definitely not happy endings. Granted, I think you can find happiness in there if you really look.
Yeah. Okay, well, let me take that back. I am a happy person, but like everybody out there, you have your ups and downs, and sometimes I don't want to watch something that's just super duper happy. Mm-hmm. It just seems really unrealistic to me. As I've grown up, or my taste has changed over time, and sometimes I don't really like stories where everything goes the way, or kind of falls into place, or that the main protagonist is able to achieve their goal.
Do you have any examples?
Like Dragon Ball Z. In Dragon Ball Z, Goku, is always gonna win.
Yes.
Well, granted, he actually dies and comes back.
But he wins.
But he wins, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that's very realistic. For example, sports. Like, I don't watch a lot of mainstream sports too much, but I love watching mixed martial arts. Mm-hmm. And for example, for American fans, UFC is pretty well known. And when you reach that level, top tier level, you really never know who's gonna win. And sometimes the what's the opposite of a underdog?
Well, in this case, right, the Goliath, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the skills of the Goliath is superior, it doesn't really always mean that it goes according to plan. Mm-hmm. So I like it when there's that change up.
But you are a big football fan, right? FUTBOL.
Yeah. And
so your protagonist is always, like in the sports example you bring up, like your protagonist is always going to be your team. Mm-hmm. And you get the most joy when they win, right? And you feel a sense of defeat when they lose.
Yeah.
So in the MMA one, is it more a sense of like what makes that different from the football example?
It doesn't matter. It just comes down to realism. You can root for your favorite team who, however money the team spent on getting the best players. Mm-hmm. Doesn't always mean that you win, right?
Yes.
And I think that's a very realistic take on life. Mm-hmm. That's why I don't like. I mean, I do watch series where the protagonist is always winning, but sometimes I want a different story. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what Evangelion was to me. Mm-hmm.
So did you like the final ending then, or?
I don't know.
Are you conflicted about the final ending?
When I first watched it,
yeah,
back when I was younger, I didn't get it, obviously.
Oh, sorry. I meant the fourth movie ending, Thrice Upon a Time ending.
For me, Thrice Upon a Time was just fan service. And And as a fan of the franchise, I enjoyed every single minute of it.
But would
So
it?
much so that I've watched it like 5 times already.
Yeah.
You know, just to pick up on the Easter eggs that So what I always do with movies like this, I watch it the first time, kind of try to digest it, try to figure out what the message is, or what it is that we're supposed to kind of get out of it, and then parts that I don't understand. I mean, I get very analytical with everything that I do, but so I kind of go back to the parts that I didn't understand, I rewatch it, and then I go onto YouTube or whatever platform to watch all the reviews of the certain or the media, get other opinions. So then from there I kind of combine my ideas and other ideas and try to put together my own take on things, and then I gotta go back and watch it, and if I like it, if I love it, like this final movie, then I watch it the 5th time. It kind of shows how much time I have in my hands, but yeah, that's just kind of what I do.
That is interesting, though. I don't think I've ever I thought of the last movie, Thrice Upon a Time, as a fan service movie, even though it is. I kind of looking back at it, it does provide a lot of fan service.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole rebuild, there's some of the Easter eggs that are kind of
Littered
thrown
throughout
around. Littered throughout the movie or the series is fan service.
Right.
I don't know, putting things that he loves in there. Well, I don't. Wait, sorry.
Well, I mean,
what's the question?
well, I personally didn't realize or pick up on the fact that it is like, if it's a fan service movie, I think it does provide a lot of fan service, but I was thinking more along the lines that it is kind of a way to wrap up the ending and provide that new kind of reasoning that would give the ending, or that would make the ending that he wanted.
Just because he's done so many interviews, he's kind of explained things, but we don't really know why Unknown truly created the Rebuild series, right? Sometimes I feel like it is kind of like art, where he's kind of, whatever emotions he has inside him, he pours it out through the movies. So I think we've discussed this off the podcast in the past, but the TV show, their first set of movies and the Rebuild, it kind of displays Unknown's emotional state.
Yes, definitely.
And his take on life at that moment.
Yeah.
But I always wonder if people had not bashed him during the TV series or the first set of movies, would he have taken this time, the span of 10 plus years, to recreate the Rebuild series?
Well, I feel like the Rebuild was there. Some of the storyline was created in a way that it would satisfy people like you or I. The Rebuild series, right?
Yeah, the Rebuild series.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, I don't know if the Rebuild series, you can say it's a happy ending, but it's a different, or it's more positive ending, how to say, without spoiling too much. And I feel some of that comes from Anno's desires to create something that people can feel satisfied or enjoyed, more so than what he had released prior.
Well,
that's why I called it the fan service.
So the first movie, and I can probably be corrected, or not the first movie, the first ending, I can be probably corrected about this, but I don't think he actually got hate until after that episode came out. I think he was just more or less kind of depressed, as like his depression started becoming a bigger and bigger issue as the series went on.
That's why he ended up creating the first set of movies.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I thought you mentioned that he got bashed, and that's why that first ending came out like it was. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Maybe I misspoke. I meant because there was bashing from, well, not us, but people who were unsatisfied with the first TV series, how it ended.
Yeah.
His depression got worse, and he got into this really bad emotional state. And then I think it was Anno who wanted to recreate the first set of movies, right? It wasn't forced upon him by the production company.
Well, I mean, this production company is his, right? He created it. Studio Kara?
Oh, yeah.
We should find a way to wrap that up, though.
I don't know how to. We were kind of all over the place.
Also, from what I understand, the theme song for Evangelion, the original series, slaps so hard that it... Okay, I don't want to say slap so hard, but it's quite well known to people who haven't seen the series. So, if anything, just watch it just for that, so you can hear that on repeat every time a new episode comes out.
All on Netflix, so pretty easy to watch, I think.
Granted, on Netflix, they took away the final song, which was Fly Me to the Moon, sung in a variety of different styles, which I'm kind of sad about because I really like that song.
Did they also edit out certain scenes in there? I heard.
So I know I don't know if they edited out certain scenes. I know they changed the subtitles to change some of the meaning, because I think in the Netflix series they changed the subtitles so that it doesn't seem as not pandering, but it doesn't seem as suggestive of homosexuality or a homosexual relationship.
Is that the scene with Shinji and I forgot his name. Not Kanji.
Kaoru.
Oh.
Wait, which scene are you talking about? Kaji?
Yeah. Maybe that's the movie. I'm maybe getting it all mixed up. But I thought like Kaoru and Shinji's relationship was supposed to be like that. Like it's kind of vague whether or not they're like friends or like interest.
Yeah, I think in the originals, if you don't look at the subtitles, if you listen directly in Japanese, or you look at the original subtitles when they came out back in VHS, it actually does. It is suggestive of more of kind of like a loving relationship. But they change it a little bit in the Netflix to make it less of that. Make it more of kind of like a friends relationship, like a really close friends relationship.
I see.
So yeah, Netflix, you messed up. But yeah, so those are our recommendations. We have Tenet, Suicide Squad, Cobra Kai, and Evangelion, Thrice Upon a Time, along with the rest of the Evangelion series if you haven't watched it.
I don't know. We are recommending series that are like more like franchises where you have to kind of watch prior movies before watching.
I mean, yeah, for Cobra Kai, you definitely need to watch the first. It'd be best if you watched the movies as well, the Karate Kid movies. That's why I did want to ask you, that's why I did ask you if watching the original Suicide Squad helped with improved your enjoyment of the Suicide Squad, or if it was very separate. Because I think for me, like, having that such a low bar for the original Suicide Squad, I really did not like that movie. But I think that really kind of helped with my enjoyment of the Suicide Squad. Granted, I think it's probably good standalone as well, just because I think, yeah, the direction that they made, the comedic choices, I think were really good, really enjoyable.
Yeah. So as you guys may have noticed, I guess Phil and I really like fantasy and sci-fi. None of the stuff that we recommended was like drama or
Did we not?
documentaries and something. Cobra Kai is like,
Action comedy.
fantasy.
That's action comedy. Yeah, that one's
action. Yeah, Cobra Kai kind of like drama because it does take place in the real world. Whereas the other three was kind of really out there. But yeah.
But we do like other movies and series, so if you have any recommendations for us, feel free to drop it in. Either the Instagram post or the WordPress.
Maybe our next one will be focusing, or maybe we can have another episode that focuses on non-sci-fis and action movies.
Yes.
Have recommendations for that?
Yeah, like Hamilton. Anyways, thanks for joining us. We hope as Casey mentioned, I hope you learned a little bit more about us. And we hope if you haven't watched these movies or series before, go ahead and take a look. Hope you enjoy.
All right. See you guys next time. Peace.
Later.